My name is pmich. Welcome to another presentation of Northcote History. This is the conclusion of the tour of Northcote Hill East Side. Part 2 heads along Prospect Road, then into Mitchell Street and along High Street. Prospect Road was developed by W.G. Swift. Until late 1940s was settled only on the east side. All these houses had wide, expansive views east to the Dandenongs. This MMBW plan from 1907 shows the undeveloped area of the Beaumont estate. Numbers 5 to 11 were not built until after 1926. All the good examples of the arts and craft architectural style include side driveways taking into account the motor car. Number 5, Prospect Road, arts and craft house with arched entrance porch. 7, Prospect Grove, unusually high-pitched roofline, planting canopy ensures privacy. Number 9, Prospect Road, a bungalow designed with brick highlights and distinct high chimneys. 13, Prospect Road, Iolanthe, dating from 1889, a brick cottage with slate roof, centre entrance porch. Thomas Plant, salesman, lived here from at least 1905, the son of George Plant, owner of the Peacock Inn. Number 15, Prospect Road, Olinda, dating from 1887, a brick cottage with front bay windows raised height to gain a better view. May have had a basement cool room, 2 tall palms at the rear. William George Swift lived here for 40 years, highly esteemed town clerk of Northcote Council, bought the property in 1885. His History of Northcote published in 1928. Ilmer Grove descends sharply down the hill, typical grand eastern balcony view these houses would have had. Number 17, Prospect Grove, a brick bungalow built on Swift's side yard, dating from 1935. He ran a side business of selling prize-winning leghorn chickens on this site. 19, Prospect Grove, Pisgah, dating from 1887, a typical double-fronted polychromed brick house in the Victorian style with cast-iron veranda, hipped slate roof, original chimneys with a dog-tooth cornices. Unsympathetic fence, built for William Carney, a municipal inspector. Number 23, Prospect Grove, 1887, Willowville, a Victorian house with expansive views, later terracotta tiles added. Built for Mrs. Anne E. Swift, mother of William George. She was the owner of Willow Tree Hotel in Collingwood. 25, Prospect Grove, corner of Mitchell and Prospect Grove. Grand view dating from 1892, a large house with 2 addresses and 2 entrances. Victorian solid dwelling with slate roof, palm trees in the front, intact chimney, slate roof, fence and veranda later addition upper on the Prospect Road. Built for William Smith and Sons, established ham and bacon curing business in the corner of High and Mitchell Streets, then in 1884 moved the business off Northcote Hill to Basting Street. Later, Miss Frieda Northcote, a popular singer, lived here, known on the radio for songs such as Mary Gumleaf and Little Miss Kookaburra. We head east along Mitchell Street. 32 Mitchell Street, dating from 1880s, a small brick cottage with slate roof, nil chimney, later unsympathetic green brick fence. John Grindrod lived here in 1920s, related to the pioneer Northcote settlers, the Grindrod family in Westgarth. Family connection with John Kane Sr., who married into the family. Wardrop Grove, laid out around 1915 on the grounds of Wardrop House, a 2-storey solid grand building, unusually no tower, built in the late 1840s for Robert Guthridge merchant on 2.6 hectares of land. Later resident Sir Francis Ormond, founder of the Working Men's College, RMIT, then George Wardrop Furniture Retail, and finally a YMCA Boys Hospital until its demolition. Number 1, Wardrop Grove, dating from 1925, an interesting late Federation brick house on an elevated rise, has 2 porches. Marmaduke Clyde Jones of Boyd and Jones Grocery and Property Business lived here from the late 1930s. MC Jones was active in local and trade politics, president of the Retail Grocers Association, and founder of the first grocery classes at the Melbourne Technical College. Number 3, Wardrop Grove, dating from 1930, a large white brick and timber bungalow, distinct rounded southeastern bay windows, situated on an elevated block for the best eastern views. From at least 1930 was the home of Ernest Bardsley, with his brother operated Northcote Felt Manufacturing Company on Merry Parade. We return to Mitchell Street and head west up to the hill to the fire station. Between Wardrop House and Frederick Street there was only a few buildings because of Pym's brickworks. Land was subdivided around 1912 after the death of his wife. This 1908 plan shows the clay hole next to number 17, which is now number 11. 25 Mitchell Street, Alva, dating from 1910, a brick residence with unsympathetic alterations of veranda and fence, built for Walter Membry, real estate agent and politician, likely developer of the Pym's estate. 21 Mitchell Street, A well-preserved arts and craft villa with wraparound veranda on the large block with a small west side yards, long wide windows. 18 Mitchell Street, corner of Aldous Avenue. Early meeting hall with a small rear timber hall. The primitive Methodists were early settlers of Northcote and Preston. This 1859 hall at the rear originally was in High Street, relocated here when the National Australia Bank at 312 High Street was built. In 1889 the corner hall was built. Later the Salvation Army took it over. 11 Mitchell Street, Prospect Villa, 1880s. Decorated brick and Victorian double-fronted terrace on formerly the very large allotment. James Pym lived and operated brickworks here from 1879 to 1913, a small business employing 15 people, quite different from the highly mechanised Northcote Brick Company on Separation Street. Numbers 13 and 15 were not built until around 1940. House was very near the clay hole. 16 Mitchell Street, mid-1880s, a plain double-fronted brick Victorian cottage, corner of Aldous Avenue. Arthur Hollywood, bank and cure, lived here no more than 10 years, but he led a colourful life, starting as a petty thief in 1881. By 1898 was insolvent and sick, a victim of the 1890 Depression. He worked at Watson and Patterson in Preston and King, Kenahan and Smith in Basting Street. By the 1930s was working for a visiting circus in Thornbury. 12 Mitchell Street, circa 1890, on the right in the picture. Plain area, the Federation style, designed with a simple chimney and clinker eaves, at least 5 years later than its adjoining neighbour at number 14. In 1930, Claude Dean lived here. 10 Mitchell Street, a car park bounded by Mitchell and Frederick Streets, former home of Northcote rate collector William John Hatfield. There had been an ongoing dispute between Hatfield and his next-door neighbour Claude Dean. In 1932, Dean was found guilty of setting fire to Hatfield's house. Whilst Hatfield survived the fire, he died very soon after of a heart attack. There had been previous arson attacks. Fire station, corner of Frederick Street, 1960s modern building. The fire brigade was housed originally in an elegant late Victorian two-storey building dating from around 1895. We now head north along Frederick Street. The old Northcote Baths site, corner of Frankford Court, from 1923 to 1969. A parapet of the old baths entrance still remains with stairs. It was an unheated open-air pool, land purchased from Pym Estate in 1910, bars not built till 1923. Joe Fogg, long-term manager from 1929 to its closure in 1969, early life-saving trainer and involved in the Learn to Swim campaign. Said to have trained over 50,000 swimmers. Just before he died, Fogg received the Order of the British Empire for contributions to swimming and life-saving. We return to Mitchell Street, corner of High Street. The Mitchell Street Junction has a variety of interesting buildings from the 1880s to the 1920s. Particularly 282 High Street, corner of Mitchell Street, circa 1910, was the former Melbourne Savings Bank. A two-storey grand building later widened. Bands of white bricks, interesting columns at the front. 10 years later was the State Savings Bank of Victoria. 284 to 286 High Street, Thai Furniture Warehouse dating from 1932, now apartments. A two-storey shop with arch windows on second level, possibly aping the next-door bank. Purpose-built building for the Thai Furniture Warehouse, seventh in the chain of stores around Melbourne. 290 High Street, the former commercial bank from 1908 to the late 1970s, left side in the photograph. Now Westpac Bank. Two-storey brick building with decorative pediments and small balcony, two large arch windows on the ground level. This was the financial centre of Northcote with another two large banks north of Laurie Street. West side of High Street opposite is the Commercial Hotel, or the Social Club, corner of Hawthorne Lane, a two-storey Victorian-designed corner pub with a highlighted upper windows, named after the bank. The first hotel was called the Shannon, dating from 1854, but was fully rebuilt in 1887. A significant event happened here. In 1891, the first meeting of the forerunner of the Australian Labor Party was held here. It's now a popular music venue. 293 High Street, former Edmonds Fancy Goods, dating from 1927, an Art Deco shop design featuring windows on the second level. Clinker-style brick batten, originally had a ball on top of the tower, two top side decorations on each end. 285 High Street, dating from 1889, two-storey shop dwelling in the Italian Renaissance style with arch balcony and intact decorated pediment featuring a starburst, designed by neglected local architect James Birtwistle for the chemist Frederick Eagles. Described at the time as one of the most handsome structures on High Street, Birtwistle also designed Preston Town Hall and the richly decorated Illawarra in Toorak. 275 to 277 High Street on the right. A pair of two-storey shop dwellings dating from 1920s with a plain brick arch window, stucco pediment. Note the small V for Victory on the right, highlighted in red, displays post-war optimism by the new Italian immigrants above their fruit shop. 273 High Street next door, dating from the 1920s. Two-storey shop dwelling in the Art Deco style, rounded top floor bay windows built from another chemist, Walker. East side of High Street heading south up Northcote Hill. 278 to 80 High Street, corner of Mitchell Street. Initially a single-storey premises with a plain parapet, later unsympathetic windows. A produce store from the 1890s, rebuilt for George Reed, grocer, in the late 1920s, eventually divided into two shops. 266 to 278 High Street. The Beehive buildings dating from 1916, set of single-level shops with brick and stylised beehive stuccoed pediments, reflective of High Street developing retail trade and optimism post-war. The Beehive advertised value shopping, good goods cheap. Shops included an optician, milliner, pram manufacturer, furrier and a horse settler at number 270. 250 High Street, Wesleyan Chapel and Schoolroom, dating from 1854, now a cafe. Very early, still standing Northcote building, simple structure with bluestone walls, much altered front now. Like All Saints in Westgarth is an early church, early community centre as well, schoolroom added next door. The Tobins taught here. 249 High Street, Wesleyan Church, dating from 1869, directly opposite. Large bluestone structure with a now missing front wooden spire, English church in simplicity with tall, narrow windows. As Northcote grew, original small church became overcrowded. The new building could seat 250 people. Cost was substantial, £1,400. Additional buildings have been added over time. Thank you for watching another presentation of Northcote History.